everybody, welcome back to Closing the Deal with Eric and Peter. Thank you guys for all the responses, the views, the subscribers. Yep. Most importantly, the reach out. Some messages that we've gotten have been very encouraging and very fun for us to receive starting a new project. So we really appreciate it, and we look forward to further communication and value add with you guys. So starting today, I know we talked about we're going to do little value add segments on what's going on in Philadelphia. Today, we wanted to start with one of the biggest projects going. So we're going to start with the Bellwether District. Everything from this website is going to be posted below, so you guys will have direct access to the website as far as the bellwetherdistrict.com goes. That's going to have a ton of information on what's happening with this project currently.
Going over the bridge, going towards, going to an Eagles game, doing Phillies game, you see out on the left, this huge area. The Hilco Redevelopment Partners, which a real estate and development company that repairs old and obsolete industrial sites. They take these places and, all over the country, they have, these crazy massive projects where they come and they essentially, they kind of do what New Western does with residential real estate. They come in to fix distressed industrial sites, and that's what they're doing in, South Philly. And this is what is bringing a lot of immense value to South Philly. And all these, different pockets that are close to this, it's going to create jobs. It's going to create, just a lot of opportunity for growth.
Definitely. And these are the projects that we communicate with investors all the time. These are projects that I personally have communicated with more out-of-state investors that know about these than in-state investors or in-city investors or local investors in general. So this is one of those things that I really encourage you. I know Peter and I have talked about this immensely. We really encourage you to go out there and take a look at this project and what's happening, because this isn't just going to affect the direct area, right? It's a sustainable development and design. It's going to provide access to global infrastructures, dozens of colleges and universities. So this is one of the projects that we, again, have talked about multiple times about. This could be the biggest thing going in the city of Philadelphia right now. And having access to this information puts you at the forefront of possibilities for investment.
Gives you a head start.
Exactly. Gives you a head start. So, cool. So now, as we promised, we're going to jump into the deal review segment. We had a lot of deals to choose from this week.
It's a good week.
It was a really good week.
I think we had a same day sale every day.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Same day sale every day, and it was almost impossible to choose from a project. Yeah. The variety of projects that came out were unbelievable. The acquisition agents here have been doing a fantastic job of finding deals that bring immense value.
And that our investors want.
Right.
They ask, and this is, what we're able to now deliver.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're watching this and we haven't connected over specific details of what it is that you're looking for currently, let us know, because we are hunting down properties for our investors at the moment, and we are finding them, and we're finding a lot of them, and we're finding them for very cheap. So.
And speaking of South Philly, right?
Right, exactly. So the property that we had to choose was in Dickinson Narrows. Everybody knows Dickinson Narrows. It's one of the nicest spots in South Philly.
Yeah, most sought after zip code.
Very, very hard to crack into, sub 400s, even for investment properties. We had some great as-is comps on this property as well. Mm-hmm. The purchase price on this one
is $250,000.
$250,000.
I know you got out there. You had a contractor quote for
$75K.
What was he doing to it?
So he was basically doing what I call a South Philly special. Okay. He was going in.
South Philly special.
South Philly special. So he was updating. He was renovating. He was making everything nice. So he was making it feel
nice
open.
Finishes.
Great finishes, granite countertops, new cabinetry throughout, great high-end bathrooms. And he was able to go and do all this with a $70K rehab budget. And knowing Dickinson Narrows, knowing the ARVs.
You can't mess around there.
Right. The work has to be done. It has to be done correctly. And correct me if I'm wrong, but we had a 480 comp?
Yeah, we had a 480 comp that closed the day before this property came out. So
same bed bath count, same
Yep.
square footage.
it's just too easy to model after.
Right. It was the perfect way to model. That was what I had my contractor model after. You know, he said he could basically get it done for $75K, get it looking like that. Now, when you're throwing numbers out there, you're talking about a $250K purchase with a $75K, and I always like to be generous with it. So let's assume $100K rehab. So you're going into this thing plus closing costs, all that kind of stuff. You're
I mean, around 375.
You're around 375.
I mean, to be all in at 375 in this zip code is already ridiculous.
When there's a comp that closed the day prior for 480 that is easily modeled after.
Yeah.
So you're looking at a 6-figure potential profit on a deal where you were all in at a decent price. I know this investor specifically, it was a cash purchase. They're funding the rehab through cash. So for them, a quick cosmetic rehab with the contractor group that they have, I mean, this thing's going to be out on the market in 2.5 months. Post close, this thing could be out on the market in 2 months.
Yeah.
And this is going to
in
be
a better market. It's going to be hot out. You know, people are looking to, and again, look at where we are, Dickens and Narrows.
Exactly. We're looking forward to getting into this interview portion with, again, Ron Klabundi. We had a lot of people reach out and ask if we could get him on in person and basically just do a one-on-one interview with a couple questions that we had gotten. Obviously, we weren't going to pepper him with the 10 to 15 questions that we received. So we went with 5 questions that we thought really were going to provide value. So if any of you watching do have questions still remaining for Ron, his contact information will be directly after the interview portion, and reach out to him. He is a fantastic guy. He is phenomenal in every sense of the word, and he is a high character human being, which is what we prefer to surround ourselves with.
Big time energy for Ron.
Yeah, big time energy. So we appreciate it. We hope you guys enjoy the interview, and look out for our video coming next week. Thank you again for all the support, liking, subscribing, sharing. You know, everything like that has been fantastic. So we're really excited to keep this project going. And again, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the interview portion of Closing the Deal with Eric and Peter. I know we have a popular face you'll recognize, Ron Klabundi. Thanks again for joining us today.
It's great being here, Eric. I love working with you guys and just the passion that you have for investors, and really the work that you're doing behind the scenes and with New Western to make them radically successful. That's what I love, man.
Yeah, we love to hear it. You know, I know you and I have collaborated on a lot of deals thus far, more coming in the future, but it's great to be in a group that's passionate about your investors making money and not just the agent making sales. So we are very excited going forward. We had a lot of feedback, very, very positive on the first video that we put out from the meetup that we did back in April, and it's been great. So we have a couple questions that we'll pose for you towards the end.
Yep.
Today we are going to be talking about how to convert from hard money loan to a DSCR or conventional loan, which is going to be your expertise.
Yep.
And I'm kind of going to sit back and let you run this thing for a bit. We're really excited to see this product and how it works.
Yeah, well, and this is what we're going to be talking about over the next few minutes, is going to save investors from bankruptcy. That's the key. We're saving investors from bankruptcy and positioning them to create long-term sustainable wealth. That's the key. Now, what's really interesting about that is that most real estate investors do this. They jump off the cliff. And you might be wondering, well, why would you say that most real estate investors do this? And it's really simple, because the gurus are telling them they can have that. And so what happens is that real estate investors look at the picture of where they can be, and they get their eyes set on the dream, on the vision, and they fail to realize that there's a whole pathway to getting to that dream. And so what the gurus do is they say, you can have the jet, you can have the boat, you can have the free time for your family, you can help get your kids to college, you can have the beach, you can margaritas, you can have it all. You can have the world, right? And by the way, if you sign up for my $10,000 program, I'll teach you how to do it.
And you can have it by next week.
That's right. And so what they do is the gurus are they're leading investors into a maze. Now, some of you might have realized that this particular maze doesn't have an exit. And that's exactly what gurus are doing to investors. They're leading them into a maze. They're telling them they can have their dreams in full, which they can, but they're not giving them an exit strategy. They're teaching them how to get in, but they're not teaching them how to get out and create long-term sustainable wealth. So here's the key that we're going to talk about in these next few minutes, is that when you get into real estate, you have to begin with the end in mind. Always know your exit strategy. In fact, think about the last time you did a maze. When I do mazes, I always run them backwards first. And I've discovered that it's actually easier and faster to run a maze backwards than forward. You're probably wondering why. It's because the designer of the maze puts all the barriers at the beginning. So if you run it backwards, you can actually run it forwards faster. So what we're going to do in the next few minutes is I'm going to give you the exit strategy. We're going to walk it backwards so that investors, when you step into the maze, you can get through it quickly, and your emotions, your mind, and your money can be at ease, knowing that you will win. And I'm going to teach you how to do that in just a second. All right. So we're going to make this black sheep you. By the end, this is you. Everyone else can go off the cliff, but not the investors that are here today. All right. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you 2 lending strategies that are going to do 3 things. First, they're going to build your portfolio and revenue faster. They're going to help you create sustainable wealth, and they're going to mitigate your risk. That's really, really key. Now, you need to understand that there are 2 strategies, and these are exit strategies to either buying a house with cash, buying a house, buying a property with maybe a 401k, buying a home with a home equity line of credit, or buying a home with a hard money loan. There are a lot of ways to buy a home. The key is when you make that investment, though, you probably want to get your money back. And if you're working with a hard money lender, I can guarantee you they want their money back. And they're going to get it back one way or another, either by you bankrupting or by you having a calculated exit strategy. So let's dive in with that strategy. So the first pathway to look at is very simply a conventional loan. This is no different than the loan that you might have on your primary home. This is a personal loan, and for investing purposes, this loan is usually best or easiest, most easily used with W-2 employees. This is also based on your personal income. And we're gonna compare that to another loan in just a second. So this is based on your personal income. And then that leads into your debt to income ratio. So what we're calculating in this loan is, what is your total monthly debt divided by your total monthly income? And that gives us a ratio, a percentage. And that percentage has to be less than 50% to qualify for a conventional loan. Again, no different than the loan you have on your primary home. It's just the investor version of this. So if you own a home, you've very likely been through this process. You're familiar with it. Then for investor purposes, the loan to value can be upwards of 80%. Upwards of 80% loan to value in a refinance. If you're using a conventional loan to actually purchase the property, then you can go as low as 15%. There are pros and cons in that. So I put in here, safely, you want the loan to value typically to be 20%. And then because it's a conventional loan that's built upon your person, it's your income and your debt ratio, typically has a lower interest rate. Now, let's compare that to the second pathway or the second loan. And this is the DSCR loan, the debt service coverage ratio loan. Now, this is more of a commercial loan, and it's best suited for people who are self-employed. And you're going to understand why in just a moment. Now, if you're a W-2 employee, you can get a DSCR loan. And if you're self-employed, you can get a conventional loan. You can go back and forth. But again, if you're self-employed, there's a lot of paperwork and you have to be showing a lot of income on your taxes for the conventional loan to work. And a lot of investors don't do that. So they tend to go to the DSCR loan if they're not a W-2 employee. Then what you need to know is that the income is based on the property. That's really, really key. It's not based on your personal income. It's based on the property's income. And in this case, we're running a ratio that is the rent of the home divided by the mortgage on the home. And that's your entire mortgage, your PITI, your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So it's the rent that you have divided by that mortgage. And when you run that math, the ratio has to be above 1.0. Now, my encouragement is you only do a DSCR loan if you have a 1.15 or greater. All right. And that's just talking about profit margin. Every percentage you go, every 10th of a percent that you go over 1%, is revenue. It's money in your pocket. It's money you're making. So you typically want margin. Next, the loan to value on these is upwards of 75%. Now, again, if you're doing a purchase, you can get in at 80%. But again, if you're doing a refinance at 75%, again, safely, I'm going to encourage most investors to have a loan to value of 75%. And then interest rate is still good on these loans too. They're very economical loans. Again, conventional is a little bit lower, but you're going to do very well with the DSCR. So let me tell you about Tina. Tina just bought her first investment property. In fact, we closed on it 2 weeks ago, and I want to share with you her numbers because this is really, really key. When she went into investing, she realized, as we've been talking about, that she needed to begin with the end in mind. And so before she ever started, she got pre-approved for her exit strategy. Now, in her case, she bought her first home out of her 401k. That's how she purchased her home, 401k. But she needed to get the money back into the 401k, so she wanted to be pre-approved for an exit strategy on either the conventional or the DSCR loan. So I pre-approved her on both loans. And here are the numbers. Here's what she accomplished. She purchased her first property she purchased for $59,000. She put in $45,000 of renovations. The home, so she's now in for $104,000. Her ARV, or after renovation value, was $122,000. So you can see she immediately built equity into her property. She then chose to refinance her property for $80,000 loan. She wanted an $80,000 loan. Now, she could have taken more money out of this deal if you were to run the math based on what I gave you sooner. She chose to leave money in the deal so that she would cash flow very positive. And we're going to get to that in a second. That's a key strategy, balancing between pulling money out to buy your next investment property and keeping money in to have a strong monthly cash flow, right? So refi was at $80,000. Her mortgage payment on this home, $695. all in. That's all in. $695. You ready for this? Here's the kicker. Rent, $1,350 a month. And Tina has rental income of $655 a month. As soon as we closed on her loan, she called me and she goes, Ron, I'm so excited. Can you pre-approve me again? I'm ready to go. And of course, the answer was yes. Let's get you pre-approved. 2 days later, I had her pre-approved all over again. Now, in her case, she chose to go with the conventional loan. She's a W-2 employee. And so she decided to go that route because as a beginner to investor, it was a safer loan for her. She understood it, had great terms for her. And so she chose to go with the conventional loan. Now, at some point, that debt to income ratio that we talked about is going to flip upside down a little bit. And I'm just going to naturally take her off of the conventional loan track, and we're going to slide her over to the DSR loan track. So again, she has two options, but she always gets pre-approved before purchasing a home. So the question is this: where will you begin? And hopefully, if you're listening to this, you've gotten the message of what I'm saying. Begin with the end in mind. If you do that, then here's what you're going to do. Where are you going to begin? Before you ever buy a house, you're going to get pre-approved for your exit strategy before buying. That's the key. That is what is going to protect you. Get pre-approved for your exit strategy before buying. So that gives you a great overview of really how to prevent from doing what 99% of investors do, and that's follow the guru off a cliff and then realize he has a parachute and you don't. So this is the parachute. This is the parachute that will lead you to financial success. And yes, can aspects of that dream be reality that they're talking about? They can, but it's going to take time and probably a whole lot more work than you think. But it also takes beginning with the end in mind.
Beautiful. No, it's just such amazing information to have. I've, like probably everybody else watching this, which by the way, Tina, I know you're watching this. Hey, congratulations. That's the thing with the information that we are attempting to put out here. Every single person watching this has probably spent countless hours watching YouTube videos, watching other podcasts that give you information. It's information overload from time to time, in my opinion. You don't hear stuff like this.
No.
This just isn't the information that you're getting, because this is the hard stuff. This is the secret, if you will, that needs to be known getting into it. And again, like you said, the parachute, which is the best way to put that. And it's always a pleasure having you, come in, drop this knowledge on us, give us an opportunity to share this with the investors, the aspiring investors, and just people who have general interest regardless. It's so helpful to have this information out there. And, from the original video, we did have some questions that were posed to us. So if you have a few minutes, I'd love to be able to get to those.
Let's dive in, because that's where the magic happens, right? We just set the stage, and it's where it's the questions and wrestling with this, which is where the magic happens. So yeah, let's dive.
It is absolutely perfect. One that I got a handful of times is, what are the biggest benefits to the DSCR loan? I know this is, I don't want to say it's like the new hot thing in real estate, because it's still kind of unknown, but in general, from Ron, who deals with these style loans, what would you say are the biggest benefits for investors?
It really comes down to this: you can use them endlessly. And the reason for that is because they're not based on your personal income. So the conventional loan is governed or regulated by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They set the rules and the guidelines. And even they say that you're not allowed to own more than 10 conventional loans. I typically encourage investors only to go to 8 or 9, because I always want margin. I think margin it protects us, right? So, and if your spouse ever wants to buy a beach property or a mountain property that he or she sees, you want to be able to just drop down and do it, right? So keep some margin. So the conventional loan will eventually, its tracks will run out for you, either based on the debt to income ratio or based upon Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. The DSCR never runs out of tracks. As long as you're buying properties that are cash flowing positive, it works every time and keeps working because it's based upon the income that you're generating in the properties. The key is buy right. But I think that's the second thing in the DSCR loan. If you buy right, it will also protect you, because they're not going to give you the loan unless it's profitable.
Yeah, which is what we want.
Yep.
Ideally, that's
every day, every moment, every day. My whole mission is to help investors create sustainable wealth. That's the goal, right? So
absolutely. Yep, beautiful. Thank you. The next question that we got was, for beginners, in your opinion, what is the best way to scale safely in today's market? We know there's the G word, a lot of gurus out there that say everything needs to be fixed and flipped, and then we were in everything needs to be held. Now it's all multifamilies, and you can kind of follow the path of failure to an extent. Of course, everybody knows people who have been successful in different markets and different avenues, and any way is possible if you do it correctly. But you kind of see the trends come and go. And so for a beginner, what do you see work best?
First thing is this: always buy local. You want that home to be about 20 minutes from your home, your primary residence, so you can get to it quickly. So buy local. That matters as you're getting out of the gates. As you get down the line, explore other markets, but you will have already learned all your lessons local. So it's going to cost you less to learn those lessons local. Buy local. Second thing is this: as much as you can, use your own money. Hold off on hard money. So there are ways to do this. Open up a HELOC, home equity line of credit, on your primary home. Use a 401k like Tina did. Have enough cash saved up. Whatever it may be, home equity line of credit is usually the pathway people go. That's the one I encourage the most. Just open up a home equity line of credit if you have a home that has equity in it, and go that route. The last route I would go for a first-time investor is the hard money loan. They're just the riskiest. It's bottom line. They're expensive and they're risky. Cash is the cheapest. 401k is inexpensive, and a HELOC is inexpensive. So you might as well save the money on the front end. Learn what you need to learn, especially in the construction phase, because if a hard money loan goes beyond its term, it's going to cost you thousands of dollars. So dial in these other aspects of your team and then get to the hard money once you know you have them dialed in. So those would be the two big things: buy local and use money that's connected directly to you, if at all possible.
So another question that was posed was, what are the interest rates that you're seeing currently? And I know the investors that posed this question were hinting more at the difference between loans and, say, hard money loans and conventional and DSCR. But I think in general, they were also curious about standard rates of what you're seeing as far as investors that you've worked with. And if they're mine, I would love specifics on that as well, just so I have some clarity.
Yeah, that's really good. So anyone can know the conventional rate for investors virtually any day. All you have to do is Google, what is the 30-year fixed average rate today? Today, it's 6.4% across the board in general, right? It changes person to person based on credit score. But 6.4, add 1% to that, 7.4, and you know that you're going to be somewhere between probably 7.1 and 7.7. So there is a range, but that's based on other factors, including credit score. Then DSCR, same thing. Typically add 1.5 points, and 1.5 to 2 points, and you've got your DSCR loan. So again, pretty simple to get to those numbers. And again, keep in mind that most investor loans do come with points. Like finding a product that has no points is almost impossible. So just bank that you're going to have points, and an investor might choose to buy down the interest rate as well, depending on the market and the season and what they're trying to accomplish with cash flow. So again, there are some choices for that interest rate as well.
Okay, absolutely. And for my own curiosity, on a DSCR loan, can that be bought down the same way? Or
Absolutely, it can. Yep.
no, okay. Good to know.
Absolutely. So there's a whole matrix and a whole range that I'm looking at every time I work with an investor. And then I'm giving them options. It's not just, hey, you need to go with this one. It's no, here are 4 options. Let's talk about the pros and cons. Which one do you think would be best for you?
All right.
That's how I attack it.
Okay, great. And then two more questions and we'll get you out of here. I know I don't want to take up too much of your time. So the 4th question that was posed that I saw quite a bit is advice for beginner investors who are new to hard money. I know we've talked about hard money being not investor friendly to begin with, and with the markets fluctuating and the points that they're charging and the interest, it is expensive money. I've seen it work great. I've seen it work not so well. And so as far as your advice to beginners, and I know where you're going to go with this already, but go ahead and shoot.
One thing and one thing only. It all comes down to the integrity of the person you're working with. Can you trust them? And I mean legitimately. As we've talked about previously, Eric, conventional loans are heavily regulated. DSCR loans are heavily regulated, largely heavily regulated. Private money lending is largely unregulated. It has some regulations, but not nearly as heavy. And so as a result, there are more bad players in that space. And so the one thing that everyone needs to be looking for in a hard money lender is integrity. And if it sounds too good to be true, it is, run. Because there are models out there for you going bankrupt so they can make more money. Just saying they exist. So find a person of integrity. And Eric, I know you and I can make those introductions for people.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. And the last question I was posed this by one investor, and I was very interested because I've been speaking with him for a few months now. He invested up until 2019. He had a lot of experience. I think we went over about 15 or 20 projects that he'd done in the Philadelphia area over a 10-year time span. So he was doing quite a bit. He decided to step away, step back, kind of watch where the market was going. And flash forward 4 years later, he's kicking himself for not investing, but is a little concerned about how to jump back in. Even with all his experience, he said it seems like the numbers that he's running now don't work anymore, but somehow people are still making good amounts of money on buy and holds and good amounts of money on fix and flips. So for him specific, he's curious of, what advice would you have for someone who has experience, but it has been out of the market for a few years?
Go back to buy local. Always buy local, right? Because he's entering back in. So he has some things to relearn because of the season. It's like if I didn't go skiing for 10 years, I might ease back into it. So ease back into it. So buy local and ease back into it. It really is that simple. Buy local, ease back into it, and work with a real estate agent that can get you to the deals that are going to cash flow positive. So know clearly what your vision and your objectives are. If it's cash flowing positive, you've got to be working with the agent who knows how to get you there. And then, like we've been talking about, set your exit strategy before you get out. Get pre-approved before you start.
Absolutely. Well, Ron, that's fantastic.